right, greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. How y'all feeling? Good to see you. We're live on Rockfin, YouTube, and on Callin. What's up, people? It's feeling a little bit warmer today, which is great. For the moment, until it gets really warm, and then it's not great. If you're watching on Twitter, you know what to do. Give a retweet, a like, a repost. Good to see you all. Thanks for joining in. It's kind of starting a little bit late today, so apologies for that. Real quick, before we get into some things, some people were... Oh, did I say Callin? Did I say we were live on Callin? I meant Twitter, Rockfin, and YouTube. If I said Callin, it was muscle memory or just a habit. But thanks for calling. Thanks for calling that out. By the way, part of the reason why I was a little late today is because I was looking at I signed into the Rumble studio and also created a locals channel. So I don't know if Rumble has changed things since the last time I was streaming on Rumble. So we'll see. If I can get a stream going on Rumble and locals, I guess I'll have a couple. I guess I'll have a couple other outlets, venues for people to come watch me on, which might be, the more the merrier. So I'll let you guys know. I set up the accounts today. I just couldn't really figure out how to stream everything from StreamYard. So if I can get it set up, then we'll have a couple of other places where you can watch the show. So that'll be cool. But thanks for hanging out with me today. And I guess, I don't know if Rumble has like a call-in type feature. I'm not sure. I was poking around. I was just trying to poke around, and I really couldn't find a lot of info. It was not totally user friendly. It was okay. It was all right. We'll see. Interesting. So I was talking yesterday about, we were talking about the brightening, the SRM type marine cloud brightening, and just as an FYI, someone said marine clouds are high up. And this is what I hear when people start talking about contrails and their supposed formation. They're always like, well, they're way up in the strat. No, they're not. They're not. I see contrails all the time that are low level. And then somebody tried to say something about marine cloud brightening being way high up. It is not way high up. It is actually, the marine layer is a layer that's actually associated with fog. So it's very close to the ground. The marine layer is it's actually a very low-lying layer. And marine clouds are typically lower clouds. So just as a point of clarity for people who want to argue science but don't want to actually look into it, or I don't know, speak on things just in a knee-jerk fashion without actually bringing the info. They were talking about marine cloud brightening here in this Wikipedia article, which, we all understand how that works. Um, but where are we here? Sorry. I was on the marine cloud brightening. Wikipedia, can you do me a little bit better? Anyways, for some reason, they won't let me back into that page. Anyways, a marine layer is something that happens, towards the surface of the planet. So, yes, stratospheric aerosol injection is the higher version, right? Um, uh, they want to say stratosphere, but the thing is yes, stratosphere obviously indicates a higher level, but if you're actually just brightening the clouds that are already there, that's something that's happening at a lower level. Again, this whole idea that contrails only happen way up in the sky is absolute nonsense. Sometimes they happen way up in the sky. Sometimes they happen a lot lower. I've seen, so many form, and we're talking about contrails now. Contrails from a plane. I've seen so many form, rather low levels, not super high up in the sky. I just think it's. I mean, kind of all you have to do is look, right? All you have to do is look. Anyways. Let's keep going. This post from Jem Bendel. Hey there, climate hoax, climate scam, 15-minute city conspiracy folks. Well, so, I don't know. Jem is pretty open to calling out the power structure or calling out things that are, outside of climate change. Some issues, calling them out rather correctly, I think. 15-minute cities are actually things that have been there. I mean, that's a real proposal. It's not, and these are things that people openly talk about. Powers that be talk about. So they're not. 15-minute city is not a conspiracy. Again, we can talk about whether it's a good thing, a bad thing. We can talk about the control mechanism in the face of a changing climate and or economic collapse and or whatever, but the actual 15-minute city concept is not a conspiracy theory. It is not a conspiracy theory. So it's interesting that he mixes that up in there. But he's pointing out something that I've pointed out several times. Correctly, world set to quadruple oil and gas production by 2030. Indicates that nobody's going to stop emissions anytime soon, right? They're planning on not stopping emissions. So they're planning on continuing to burn fossil fuels, which actually indicates that the people in charge are not planning on doing anything real about climate change, right? the people in charge are not gonna, so all the things about, all the, it, again, concerns about, you know, food production are real and all that, but when are you going to stop flying the airplanes? And there are people that are, saying that maybe they're trying to get people, all the stuff with Boeing and the planes becoming less safe. They're trying to get people to not want to fly. I don't know. It's an interesting thought. Maybe that's what they're doing. The best way to get people to do what you want to do is to get them to to do it willingly, to comply, right? To do it without you having to coerce them. So, now, I mean, it seems a little, it seems like there's two competing things going on here because the oil production is set to quadruple. They're expanding airports, and they're still building a lot of planes, right? They're planning on a lot. They're planning on a lot more people flying. So there's two things simultaneously happening at once. If they're really trying to not get people to fly, I don't know why you would build more airplanes and expand the airports. I'm not really sure about that one. So maybe they're just sloppy. Maybe they just don't care, right? It's the face value kind of thing that's going on as far as the Boeing thing goes. What's happening at face value is that they don't want to spend a lot of money building safe planes, right? They just want people to get in the air, and they don't care about your safety around it, right? That's kind of the Occam's razor of it. Exactly. Yeah, they move the assembly lines to South Carolina from Washington because Washington, wants to have like union labor and wants to have people get paid a fair wage and all that kind of stuff. And so the face value, right? The surface, the immediate obvious reason why all this is happening is because we don't, we're not concerned with people's safety anymore. We're not concerned with people getting paid a fair wage. We're, all of that. We're a wholly corrupt country, right? The entire government has been taken over by corporations, has been taken over by oligarchs. Things that benefit people are quickly being cut as fast as they can. That's why trains derail and why planes fall out of the skies, because the safety regulations are constantly being hacked away at, right? In the name of profits, for profits. And this is being facilitated by a government who is less concerned with regulations that protect people and protect workers, and more concerned with profits. That's why you have government entities like the FDA and the CDC not doing their job to protect people. They're actually working in the employ of the corporations that donate money to them, the corporations that control them, the politicians that are owned by the corporations that control them, right? I mean, if you want to go further and say they're trying to get people not to fly because it's a big conspiracy, I mean, sure, go down that road if you will, if you want to, but you might think, I don't know. Maybe there's some people out there that are like, well, we got to get people to stop flying, but we just don't know how to do it. Maybe we'll make planes so unsafe that people won't want to fly. But doesn't that ruin your business model, though? Your profit model? See, all of these things, you know, on one level could seem legit. These ideas, conspiracies and whatnot, on many levels they could seem legit. On other levels, they seem to ruin the profit model or the control, and even the control mechanism of the people in charge. So when you do these things that have obvious consequences and kind of obvious blowback issues, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. But maybe they're just going ahead with what they're doing, just thinking or realizing that people aren't really going to, protest too hard. They're not going to be too upset about it. They'll just be like, oh, wow, why'd you do that? Why'd you poison our whole town? Oh, wow, why'd you do that? Why did that plane go out of the sky and kill everybody on board? Oh, wow, that sucked. Anyways. But the fact that they're planning on ramping up the oil burning and the mining and the production and the consumption, I mean, all of that is in the interest of more consumption. The whole green revolution is actually in the interest of more consumption. They want you to buy more stuff, to have more things, to buy more electric cars. They want to do that all the way to the bitter end. This is an interesting post. I don't know. Just as an aside, I have seen that. Let's see. This is interesting. Blue Mafia Blows tagged me in this. Hypocrisy, climate change denial of government failing to insulate the Colorado state capitol, but your house has to be R60. I guess that's a level of insulation. I mean, it's just poorly thought out design and not really caring about your energy usage. I don't know that this needs like a whole lot of attention, but I mean, all I can say is, of course. But of course. What Blue Mafia Blows is saying, I state in the article that insulating government and corporate buildings across the U.S. would reduce energy use by between 4.6% and 9.2%. 9.2%, almost the level of all renewable, quote unquote, renewable energy use. So that is a substantial and easy fix, but they won't act. Again, we could call it cost cutting measures. Just lazy and greedy. Give me a second. All right. Did Beckwith debate Dane Wigington? I didn't know that. I'd like to see that. Yeah, I watched Beckwith's, I watched Beckwith's chemtrail contrail thing, and I found it to be very poor. I found it to be, not very scientific, honestly. You know, what people are seeing with their own eyes and what people are taking pictures and video of in the sky is not, he's just showing you a chart. This is where contrails form, right? Okay, great. You're just showing me like the theory of contrails, which I get. I understand the scientific, the logic behind it. But if you're just showing us a chart, this is where the contrails form, but you're not. But people are actually like taking video and pictures of these massive contrails being formed all over the sky at certain levels that are not super high up, right? They're kind of like cloud level, where most clouds are. Then that it kind of goes against, you're not really, you're leaving out some evidence, and I found Beckwith's explanation there to be wholly lacking, and not not adequate to the task. Sorry. Um, yeah, it's like if Beckwith would have showed some pictures of contrail, like the pictures that people take all the time of contrails, and had an explanation for why all these contrails are forming. But he was just like, they're way up in the stratosphere. And I was like, dude, you're not. No, they're not. They're not in the stratosphere. Again, you're doing this like, you're just leaving out data. Anyways, whatever. I would be interested in watching that debate with Beckwith and Wigington. I would watch that. I mean, Wigington actually kind of, on some levels, annoys me too. But his explanations for things sometimes isn't necessarily the greatest. But I'd be interested in hearing it. Why not? Let's see. Let's see. It would be interesting, though. Um, well, and you also have, um, what is the dimming, by the way, John Glad? You also have, oh, what was I going to say? I just lost my train of thought there. Yeah, it's funny because I'm looking at the Rockfin chats. Yeah, there are people that are talking about the Tennessee law that they outlawed. They voted to ban geoengineering. Um, and people are mocking that, but Mexico banned geoengineering or banned tests because a company, this is a real story. A company just went out and started testing uh, solar radiation modification. Right? Did uh, a company actually went out and did, geoengineering testing in Mexico, right? And the Mexican government had to say, "Hey, stop that. Don't do that." So the idea that Tennessee lawmakers are like completely like loony or wild-eyed or concerned about, you know, geoengineering. I mean, now the idea that maybe they are really going to outlaw it, or they're really going to do something about that by passing this law, might be also a little silly, but I think it's just, it's not that crazy of an idea, especially when entities are admitting that they're doing it. Right. We just had an admission. Oh, we were trying to do some weather modification or radiation modification out here, but we didn't want to tell anybody because people get mad about that stuff. All right, so you have people admitting it. You have Tennessee passing a bill about it, and you're calling them crazy. Aren't you concerned about geoengineering in particular, especially a scientist who's concerned about the climate or the possible effects on the planet Earth? Aren't you concerned about that? I would imagine that you'd be happy about this bill and not calling people crazy and kooky. Just the logic kind of escapes me there. Oh, it's a Dane Wigington movie. Okay, thank you. Sorry. I agree with you. Serenity, who knows though? I mean, there are a lot of claims that they've done soil tests, and I'm not sure about all that stuff, but about the aluminum, testing for aluminum in the soils and waterways and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just giving you my lack of direct knowledge of it. That's not saying that it's not happening, and that's kind of no excuse for me to not have further. I've seen quite a few claims about it though. I like Jim Lee, Obsolete Optics. I used to actually play some of Jim Lee's before you were watching the show. I used to play some of Jim Lee's videos once in a while because I thought they were interesting. Because he comes at it in a very logical way. I like Jim Lee's arguments. He's still basically a denier of climate change, and I don't know about, that makes me on some level skeptical of some of the things he's saying, but it's all good. Or not. I like Jim Lee though. He's cool. All right, I'll watch the debates. Thank you. Yeah, Earth, I agree with you. Perhaps many know-it-all scientists don't want to admit that there's something going on that they're not aware of. They don't want to have been fooled by this type of thing. Kind of makes them fools by definition. Yeah, and also I think I think a lot of climate scientists and communicators want to talk about climate in kind of in an uncontaminated arena, right? They want to just talk about climate science, and I don't know why they hold on to this idea that there's no, that climate change is happening outside of any influence. Obviously, there's quite a bit of influence. Who was it the other day that said something really interesting? They were saying, well, if the forest fires, if wildfires, some of them, not all of them, but if wildfires are, they're claiming that wildfires are being you know, caused or exacerbated by climate change, by a warming Earth. Sure. Okay. Granted, good point. Wildfires are exacerbated by climate change, right? It's getting warmer. There's less moisture in the soils or in the trees or in the plant life. You have climate change is creating conditions in which wildfires can get worse. But what this person said was kind of stupidly obvious. They were like, well, even if humans are setting the fires, that's anthropocentric, right? Like it's the humans are doing damage to the planet, right? Humans are part of the equation, even if it's not the whole like CO2 is causing warming and we all understand that. So what I'm saying is, I get that climate scientists and climate people want to just talk about climate change in this pristine arena and this thing that's not muddied by the fact that there's actually other things. They're decades and decades, right? Experiments on the planet, experiments on the atmosphere, experiments on the ionosphere, experiments in the stratosphere. They've been doing that for a long time. The militaries of the world, especially the United States. And I was just watching a really interesting video of a Air Force colonel or captain talking about, we're going to go to HARP, talking about the HARP facility and saying that they already know everything they want to know about it in their studies with HARP, and that their intention was to control the ionosphere. Well, when you have somebody saying that, like out loud, this is an Air Force captain. I forget what his stage was. What his rank was. Admitting in Congress that they have, they're controlling the ionosphere and they're doing these tests. Like, if you're a climate scientist and you're not taking these things into account, you're kind of failing at your job, and you're kind of failing at your understanding about what's going on the planet, and you make yourself less believable when you're like, no, that's horse patootie, that these people are crazy that are talking about this. They're not crazy. These things are being admitted in public. So, get it together, scientists. If you're leaving out a lot of data and evidence and parts of the equation, things that could actually be affecting the thing you're talking about. And again, all of this falls under, human manipulation, destruction, whatever you want to call it. Human intervention, obviously it all falls under the anthropocentric label. Right, exactly. Tuskegee, you have things like Tuskegee, which is not necessarily related, but related in the sense that, we've done seemingly, crazy experiments in the past, and the idea that we just stopped doing all those things because, well, we're better now is slightly, if not massively, naive. Arnie who's and I'm sure some people were saying in the chats yesterday, like, they think that like commercial planes are doing the thing. It's no, it's not. It's not what it is. I mean, all you got to do is just pay attention. Like, just do some personal observation. It's really, like observe the world in which you live for a moment and take some really good, observational, mental notes on what it is you're seeing. But if you're just like, oh, just glancing up for 5 seconds and going like, oh, that's just a contrail. Well, that's not enough observation. Be a little more curious. Anyways, all that is to say, they just admitted that they did some experimentation with marine cloud brightening without letting anybody know. Now they're letting us know because they didn't want to make anybody mad. In 20, we're talking about 2024. They're basically admitting to a secret experiment, secret because they didn't want any backlash or back talk. But it's for your good. It's for your benefit. So, in my mind, if the government is doing stuff like this and hiding things like this, and they do it all the time, and you know this, to dismiss this stuff out of hand as nonsense or conspiratorial is actually not a very intelligent position to take. It's actually really naive, and I don't really take you seriously. If that's the position you're gonna take, I'd be like, well, that's not a position that to be taken seriously. Sorry. No, I didn't make this coffee with tap water. I did not. Thanks for looking out. Yeah, Gigabane. You're right about that. Tap water has the least nanoplastics. That's interesting. Interestingly, so I store my water in glass, and the water container that holds the water is ceramic. So I'm trying to just eliminate as much plastic touching the water as possible. But when I go to the store to get the water, it's coming out of like plastic, the filters are all plastic, plastic machines, plastic lines. I'm like, what are you going to do? But I'm not storing the water in plastic. So it's not sitting in plastic. I appreciate your concern, you guys. You're great. All right. Oh, so here's checking in on tips, comments attached to super chats, super rays. If y'all got a comment you're really dying to send me, you can also donate, tip, and comment via PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. By the way, if you don't believe, if you do think all of that stuff is a conspiracy theory and you're not down with it, that's totally your right to think that too. I mean, I'm not saying you can't think that. Again, I don't think it's a very educated or intelligent position, but that's just me. Because you're leaving a lot of information out. But think what you want. I mean, I'm hoping that I'm giving people, uh, I hold an unpopular position a lot of times, kind of in the way Jem Bendell gets, uh, because Jem Bendell is talking about things outside of a particular political silo. He gets a lot of grief. Right? He's a climate change guy. He's a climate change communicator. That is his bailiwick. Um, so when he strays outside of the accepted liberal silo of views, people really come at him, and that I understand what that's about. And on the whole, I think, here's the important part. I'm going to get to the point that really matters. And other people have. I see other journalists or alternative journalists that I disagree with on many of their viewpoints. Maybe not many, a few of their viewpoints. I have issues with some of their viewpoints, but whatever. The thing is that what the powers that be really hate is to have a balanced. They don't want a balanced outlook on issues. They don't want political silos to be mixed up, or lines to be crossed. They want liberals over here thinking liberal things and liberal narratives. They want conservatives over here thinking conservative things and conservative narratives. And they don't want the cross. It's when they cross, when people from this silo are willing to listen to this silo, or this, or vice versa, that's when they start really freaking out. And so it's the commentators and the journalists that are telling you that it's neither, none of the above, or that, expand your thinking on particular things, or maybe don't have such a rigidly, denominational outlook on, what it is that you think, or how you think, or how you look at particular issues. Because when you encourage people to think beyond the lines and the scope of their own narratives, the narratives they get from whatever, whether you're a Fox News narrative or a CNN narrative or a whatever, when you encourage people to look outside those lines or look a little deeper, that's the thing that the powers that be really don't like, and that's why my channel is squashed. That's why my Twitter is squashed. That's why all my social media channels are squashed. Because I'm trying to get people to consider things outside of their, if I was only talking about climate change, then there would be no problem with that. There would be no, if I were only talking about climate change from a viewpoint of accepted, narrative management, there'd be no problem with that. I would probably be allowed to get more followers and more views on my videos. Serenity asks, how can contrails follow the sun when the sun is moving? All the contrails I've seen are all over the sky. Oh, when I talk about that, no, they lay down the contrails in front of the sun. They don't follow the sun. The people that make the contrails follow the sun, right? So I've seen this happen a few times. More than a few times, not a few times, but more than a few times, where I've gotten up in the morning, there's bam, 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 contrails all on the east where the sun is rising. And then as the day progresses, the contrails just seem to somehow show up right in front of the path of the sun until it's setting in the west and there's a ton of contrails. It's not, What do you mean, Salt Lakers? You don't know what I'm talking about? Or 20? You mean as far as like squashing my viewership? There should be Salt Lakers. There should be 130 people in the chat. 2 years ago, or when COVID was happening, I had 130 people on average in my chats. About 3 years ago, all of my videos averaged about 2,000 to 3,000 views a day, which is not amazing numbers, but I'm small. I'm a small channel. But at one point, they were like, "You're not going to have any more." And it's not a matter of like, you see 27 people, but I'm telling you, there's more people than that watching this video. They decided you're only going to get 200 views per video. You're only going to get so many people watching your show, and we're going to cap it. I know that sounds crazy, but just ask any other content creator that gets shadow banned and or has their views squashed, and they'll all tell you the same thing. At some point, YouTube or Twitter or whatever channel you're on just decides like, you're not going to get any more views anymore. We're going to make sure that it looks like nobody's watching your channel, or hardly anybody's watching your channel. So, that's what I'm saying. So I've gone from 3,000 views or 2,000 or 3,000 views on my videos every single day to like 200, and that's not because I haven't changed my content. They just decided like they don't want anybody watching my channel anymore, so they made it look very unpopular, or like not that many people are here. And it has a very effective. That's very effective, because the less viewers I have, the more it seems to people like, I don't know, there's not anything going on over here. I don't know. Yeah, they're hidden creative experiments, exactly. So it doesn't matter whether, if you look at all my video views on all my videos, it's about 200. It kind of averages about 200 views on every video. A little more, a little less, give or take. It doesn't matter. I could have 500 one day, or 1,000 one day, or 100 one day. It doesn't really matter. They just decided, well, this is your cap. This is about what you're going to get every day. And we're going to make sure that none of your videos get over like 300 views, God forbid, because it might make it look like some people are watching your videos, right? So it's very frustrating. It's very, very frustrating, because it does make you feel like giving up. Anyways, it's the same on my Twitter too. Like I post things on my Twitter, and they don't let anybody see it, right? It's just the same 5 people that like and retweet my posts on Twitter, and they won't let any other people see any of my posts. And it's really frustrating because, for whatever reason, I don't post anything different or less quality, or, I don't really post anything much different from anybody else. But other people somehow are allowed to get people to, I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird thing. I've been stuck. My Twitter account has been stuck at about 630. I don't know what it is. 50 now. It's been between like 600, 650 for like 4 years. They won't, I swear to God, I get more followers if I don't post anything. If I never post at all, I would naturally just some people would just start following me. I might get 10 followers or 20. But for 3, 4 freaking years, I have been stuck at the same number. That is just not even possible. If you're posting all the time or creating content all the time, that's just like not even possible in a real world situation. People would see your stuff and go, oh, this looks pretty cool. I guess I'll follow this guy. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Thanks, Obsolete. We just ended up just talking. It could be. It could be. Anyways. Yeah. Let's see. Let us see what we can see. So yeah, I started a little bit late, so I'll cover this story before we get out of here. Gabe sent me this. Simply mind-boggling world record temperature jump in the Antarctic raises fears of catastrophe. Really? Fate Line God says YouTube won't allow me to download your vids like I do other channels I'm sub to. Really? Wow. No, I'm just, you know, I don't know how true this is for other channels, but I'm just saying when you're looking at my channel, it says 37 people are watching right now. My guess is it's, at least 10 or 20 more than that. I can't really tell because they won't show me. They won't tell me. And when, you see that all of my videos have 200 views on them, I'm guessing you could just add add between 200 and 500 views to that. I'm guessing, but I don't know. I don't know because they won't tell me anymore, which means that they're committing fraud. Actually, if you're trying to give people an accounting of your channel, and give people like views and view counts and like pay people based on those view counts, I mean, they're committing fraud. YouTube is committing widespread fraud. Why there hasn't been a lawsuit? Like there should be could be a collective creator lawsuit on YouTube committing fraud, because they could be totally, I think, easily sued for fraud, defrauding the creators. Absolutely. And defrauding, the public on some levels. In particular. And you could probably apply that same thing to other social media, Facebook, Twitter. They could all be sued for fraud. I don't know. Might be a worthwhile endeavor. Who knows? So, an unprecedented leap of 38.5 C in the coldest place on Earth is a harbinger of a disaster for humans and the local ecosystem. On March 18th, 2022, scientists at the Concordia Research Station on the East Antarctic Plateau documented a remarkable event. They recorded the largest jump in temperature ever measured at a meteorological center on Earth. According to their instruments, the region that day experienced a rise of 38.5 C above its seasonal average, a world record. Almost 40 C above average. This startling leap in the coldest place on the planet left polar researchers struggling for words to describe it. It is simply mind-boggling, said Professor Michael Meredith, science leader at the British Antarctic Survey. In sub-zero temperatures, such a massive leap is tolerable, but if we had a 40 C rise in the UK, now that would take temperatures for a spring day to over 50 C, and that would be deadly for the population. Again, yes, we see a lot of these major temperature deviations in the Arctic and the Antarctic that people aren't really clued into the temperature in the Antarctic or the Arctic, right? Like, not a lot of people really care. But when you put it that way, and when you say, hey, there was this temperature deviation in the Arctic or the Antarctic, or on a place on Earth that was so massive, if you considered it happening somewhere else, if you considered it happening in London or New York City, it would stop you in your tracks, right? if you thought about it. 50C in London would be a track stopper, right? That'd be a deal breaker. That'd be an eye popper. Hold on one second, guys. Well, anyways, the startling leap in the coldest place on the planet left polar researchers struggling for words to describe it. It is simply mind-boggling, said Professor Michael Meredith, science leader at the British Antarctic Survey. And sub-zero temperature, such a massive leap is tolerable, but if we had a 40°C rise in the UK, yes, okay, I read that. This amazement was shared by glaciologist Professor Martin Siegert of the University of Exeter. No one in our community thought that anything like this could ever happen. It is extraordinary and a real concern. He told the Observer, we are now having to wrestle with something that is completely unprecedented. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, cool. Poleward winds, which previously made few inroads into the atmosphere above Antarctica, are now carrying more and more warm, moist air from lower latitudes, including Australia, deep into the continent, says scientists. And these have been blamed for the most dramatic polar heat wave that hit Concordia. Exactly why these currents are now able to plunge so deep into the continent's airspace is not yet clear. However, nor has this huge temperature hike turned out to be an isolated event. Scientists have discovered for the past 2 years they have been inundated with rising numbers of reports of disturbing meteorological anomalies on the continent. Glaciers bordering the West Antarctic ice sheet are losing mass to the oceans at an increasing rate, while levels of sea ice which float on the oceans around the continent have plunged dramatically, having remained stable for more than a century. These events have raised fears that the Antarctic, once thought to be too cold to experience the early impacts of global warming, is now succumbing dramatically and rapidly to the swelling levels of greenhouse gases that humans continue to pump into the atmosphere. These dangers were highlighted by a team of scientists led by Will Hobbs of the University of Tasmania in a paper that was published last week in the Journal of Climate. After examining recent changes in sea ice coverage in Antarctica, the group concluded that there had been an abrupt critical transition in the continent's climate that could have repercussions for both local Antarctic ecosystems and the global climate system. The extreme lows in Antarctic sea ice have led researchers to suggest that a regime shift is underway in the Southern Ocean, and we found multiple lines of evidence that support such a shift to a new sea ice state, said Hobbs. The dramatic nature of this transformation was emphasized by Meredith. Antarctic sea ice coverage actually increased slightly in the late 20th and early 21st century. However, in the middle of the last decade, it fell off a cliff. It is a harbinger of the new ground with Antarctic climate system that could be very troubling for the region and for the rest of the planet. And this is one of the things that a lot of deniers used to, it was one of the talking points that people used to bring up and say that, oh, well, Antarctic sea ice is increasing, so where's this climate change, right? Again, not really being educated on, climate change itself or climate science itself, or even understanding that there's a lag, that predictions are predictions, right? And just because they don't happen at a certain time doesn't mean that they're not going to happen. That sometimes things take time, especially with the entire global climate, which is a huge system, right? A huge system. There's a lot of momentum that needs to happen before the climate changes. before temperatures really start going up. But now that momentum is actually, engaged. The continent is now catching up with the Arctic, where the impacts of global warming have until now been the most intense experienced across the planet. Added Seeger, the Arctic is currently warming at 4 times the rate experienced by the rest of the planet, but the Antarctic has started to catch up, so that is already warming twice as quickly as the planet overall. A key reason for the Arctic and Antarctic to be taking disproportionate hits from global warming is because the Earth's oceans, warmed by fossil fuel burning, are losing their ice or their sea ice at their polar extremities. The dark waters that used to lie below the ice are being exposed, and solar radiation is no longer instead is being absorbed by the sea, further heating the oceans there. Essentially, it is a vicious circle of warming oceans and melting of sea ice, though the root cause is humanity and its continuing burning of fossil fuels and its production of greenhouse gases. Said Meredith, the whole business has to be laid at our door. It does, yeah. It's pretty wild. The anomaly is a wild one. The level of an anomaly is insane. Anyways, guys, I'm nearing the end of my time. And we'll reconvene tomorrow. I just want to say before I go, one point that I wanted to make earlier is I think that when I was saying they don't like people crossing ideological lines, powers that be, I think one of the biggest divides ideologically in any space is the climate change debate. Somebody in the chat said that climate is not a very popular subject. It isn't. It hasn't been in the past either. It's always been an unpopular subject. But the idea that, the divide between the people that think it's a complete hoax and that it's nonsense and it's not happening, and the people that think it's happening, is one of the biggest ideological divides out there. And so, I don't know. I think it's kind of important, and I guess why it is that I take the stances that I do is I want to knock down that divide. I think it's a silly one, and I think it's not helpful, right, to disparage people as deniers, or we all know why people think that, right? If you think that the powers that be are constantly lying to you, well, why wouldn't you think they were lying to you about climate change? So it's not that weird of an idea. So to disparage people, and conversely, and this is actually more important, the people that are on the side of it's a hoax or it's not real or whatever, you all need to chill out. Just chill out and try and listen. Like when I first started this channel on Rockfin, I constantly got people coming up and like really harassing me about talking about climate change. I feel like the harassment from the side of the people that are, and I see it all the time, not necessarily on my Twitter, but on other climate communicator, climate scientist posts, that the level of and the veracity or the ferocity of attack from the denialist camp is kind of out of control. And that, for the people that are in that camp, the hoax, climate change is a hoax camp, or you got to shout down everybody who is talking about climate change. Like, why don't you maybe take the stance that it's a possibility, or maybe open your mind to the idea that maybe there's several things going on at once, right? That maybe climate change is happening. Maybe the powers that be are lying to you, but maybe we are destroying the planet. the idea that human beings don't have any effect whatsoever on the planet, any large scale effect whatsoever on the planet, is not an intelligent stance. I'm sorry, it's just not. And it's funny because um, I hear people who are definitely in the climate change is a hoax camp talking all the time about how, you know, a great mass of people out there are just operating at a lower vibration, that there are a lot of dummies out there, there are a lot of sheep out there, there's a lot, if left to their own devices, a lot of humans will just, tear shit down or tear shit apart or just not right. So apply that understanding that, like, there's, a lot of NPCs out there that are just not aware, not conscious of what they're doing, and probably damaging things, including the environment, while they're doing their NPC things. Apply that to the planet. It's just not that wild of an idea, right? It's not that wild of an idea to think that humans might be effing up the planet. It's just not that wild of an idea. I've even heard somebody who says climate change is a hoax talk about how tourists come and destroy environmentally an area, right? Tourists will come and hike and camp an area to death. I've heard this person say that. I'm like, okay. So you can apply that to a localized experience and your own lived experience about how, a bunch of humans will come in and overrun a particular area environmentally, but you can't apply that to the whole planet, humans on the whole planet. Okay. Do you see the disconnect in your own thinking? So, to all the deniers and the hoaxers out there, just, consider the fact that maybe, go look at a strip mine operation. Go look at a deforesting operation in Brazil. Go look at, go look at a fracking operation. Any one of those large scale human endeavors that, is obviously a blight on the planet. Consider that humans might actually not be, doing their highest in the service of the environment, right? And, consider that maybe, open your mind to a more nuanced position. That's all I'm saying. All right. That does it for me. Thank you for listening. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all. Just making sure I'm not missing anybody who has contributed, tipped, etc., etc., etc. There are ways to support the channel and all the on all the platforms that you're watching, except for Twitter. But I'll post some links there. I sure will. All right, y'all. Until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow at 11 a.m. Appreciate you all joining in. I'll see you all tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific. Until next time, peace.